Corruption of Roland Hightower. So my favorite character from all role-playing games is by far a character I ran by the name of Roland Hightower. He was a rogue trader from the game Rogue Trader, but I was playing him in Dark Heresy, as those rules were compatible. That I was able to do that. But the gist was essentially he was a rogue trader, which for those of you who are unfamiliar is essentially in the Empire of Man, where it's sacrilege to have involvement with aliens or anything like that. The rogue traders are essentially the guys that go out and seek out trading routes outside of the Imperium to keep money flowing in towards the endless wars that they have. And he was in a time where he had lost his dynasty and lost his ship, and he was pretty much planet bound. And he came into the service of an Inquisitor, which he hates Inquisitors because he's kind of big on his freedom. And, anytime an Inquisitor's around, you have none. So, but he was in the service of an Inquisitor. And during that service, probably my most memorable role-playing moment, it happened when they went out on a mission. Him and the rest of the retinue of that Inquisitor went out on a mission. And there was a psyker who he was trying to enact a ritual, where it was a very big ritual. Like he had, toiled for years to, plot and scheme to have this giant structure built just around the harnessing of the energies necessary to conduct this ritual. Essentially, the gist was he was a Puritan in the sense that he believed in the Emperor and he hated chaos and everything, but he was radical in his thoughts. Essentially, his ritual was he was trying to become an avatar of the God Emperor of mankind, So. That's problematic. So Roland and the rest of the retinue, they're inside this giant spherical complex that this guy built, and they're standing on the edge of the concave dome of the sphere, the underside of the dome. They're standing on the edge at the halfway point, looking down, and down on the bottom they can see the ritual taking place. This guy on an altar in the middle, and his cultists, conducting the ritual, and there's lots of energy flowing around, and the ground is shaking, and this is bad. Stuff is about to go down, and the rest of the retinue, they think this is bigger than me, and they go to run. And admittedly, so did the NPCs we were with, the armed military NPCs. Bad stuff's about to happen, and they bolt because they fear the facility is going to crumble around them from all this power flowing around. Well, Roland, who sees this, knows that running is pointless. If this guy carries out his ritual, he's going to fail. There's no way that he could possibly channel the Emperor's soul into his body and become the new avatar, and become the avatar of the Emperor. This guy is going to fail spectacularly. And the energies, the psychic energies necessary to do this are probably going to, frag the entire solar system. So running's not an option. And he turns to a couple of other people, a couple of NPCs that do run, like a psyker and an assassin, I think they were. And, he looks down there and he's not going to run. He looks at them and he says quite simply, "Come on, let's go be heroes." And he draws his power sword and he slides down the inner part of the dome, and they slide down towards the bottom, and because the psyker and the assassin follow him. So what they do is these three charge up towards the ritual that's going on, and they break into the ritual at full force. They come down on their feet and they just charge up and they just start wailing on the cultists. They start cutting them down pretty easily. But, then comes the task of actually getting to this guy that is the center of the ritual. And there's, just so much psychic powers going on that there's literally, just being down here, there's a weight on you. That just, weighing you down. There's so much power down here. You feel a tingling along your skin. And you could feel the energy in the air. There's just, the weight of it is pushing you down. But, he starts charging towards this heretic, this guy at the center of the ritual, while the Psyker and the assassin hold off the rest of the cultists. And he starts charging towards it, and he's it's like running in water. He's running against a current of just power flowing out from this guy. And he's just pushing harder and harder, but he just starts slowing down to a stop where it takes all of his effort just to take a step at a time to move closer. And finally, he just gets as far as he can, and he calls back to the Psyker, push me. We need to kill him. So, the Psyker, one-handed, blasting his energies off at, the cultists and the armed guards in the area, attacking them. With the other hand, pushes forward on Roland, pushing him towards the altar. And, and sure enough, yeah, it pushes him forward. He manages to, slog a few steps closer until finally, the pair of the forces are just so strong that he's, caught in between. He's stuck in place, and, kind of like when you're, kind of like how fighter pilots experience, the G-force and, their skin and stuff is pulled. The same thing's happening to him. There's so much power being blasted away this close that, his skin's being pulled back. He can feel, as it was described to me, he can feel his skin start to tear and his bones start to creak. To the point, it's bad. He is, he cannot move forward anymore, and if he relents, he's going flying and probably going to die from the impact. He's past the point of no return. So he's thinking quickly, because Roland was, a quick thinker. The only thing he could think to do was, since this guy aligns himself with the Emperor and is trying to become the new Avatar, he starts saying the names of the ruinous powers. He starts saying every foul, unholy name he can think of, anything he's heard of. Now, Roland's not, Roland, by far, he's heretical. He's very heretical when it comes to aliens. He cooperates with Xenos. He even takes Xenos crew members. As far as the Imperium's concerned, he's a heretic. But when it comes to chaos, he wants no part of it. He would sooner throw a suspected heretic out of the airlock than deal with any, corruption on his ship. But in this instance, it's the only thing he could think of. So he starts saying every foul, unholy name that comes to mind. And sure enough, he starts being able to take a step or two more. He's able to take a few heavy steps closer. But even then, he gets up to where he's 5 feet away. He's so close that, at this point, it's just, it's so close, he can almost feel it, but there's too much power, and even calling on the dark, and even, calling on the dark ones isn't enough to get him past the powers that are just flowing around him and about to tear him apart. And, finally, he knows he has to do this, and he just screams at the top of his lungs, "I don't care who! Somebody just help me kill this man!" And everything goes quiet and white. And all of a sudden, he's in a white void, that straight, like the Matrix sort of room there. And standing before him is a hideous man in robes. A man in robes and with a staff with the head of an animal on it. A man who has a headdress that is made of several animal skulls opened up around, and when I say skulls, I mean it has the rest of the animal on the outside. So lion skull, or lion head opened up, splayed open, giraffe head splayed open around that, crocodile head splayed open around that, a few layers, making this high collar of open animal heads, with this grisly man between, and the man's just looking at him, and now I forget the lines that he said, but it was to the effect of, "Very well. I shall help you kill this man, but in exchange, you shall be bound to my servitude. What do you say, Hightower? And, Roland, it's very apparent to him what is happening right now. This is a chaos sorcerer that has appeared to him, a servant of the dark powers who heard his cries and is offering him aid in this instance. He knows that to refuse is folly. If he refuses, he's dead. If he dies, the ritual carries out, and the whole solar system's dead. Millions dead, because he couldn't kill this man. If he says yes, he is bound to a chaos sorcerer. He has essentially, sold his soul, lost his freedom, which he values so much. But knowing all this, he just looks at the chaos sorcerer. I believe he gave his name, but I don't remember what it is at this time. But he looks at the chaos sorcerer, and he holds out his hand. And he says, "Do I have a choice?" And the chaos sorcerer says, "You always have a choice." And then they shake hands. And Roland opens his eyes, and he sees that he is actually up next to the altar, and his sword is down through the heretic psyker, impaling him. And the ritual is ruined. Energies just start bursting out of the guy, going crazy. There's a huge explosion. Roland is finally knocked away from the altar as the energies of the warp just flow out and destroy this complex. And the next thing that Roland remembers is being pulled out of the rubble. Not all that hurt for what he just went through, but pulled out of the rubble rather surprisingly uninjured. And his retinue wondering what happened. And his Inquisitor's retinue wondering what happened. And all he can explain is that I had to kill him. I had to kill that man or everybody would die. And for the rest of Roland's run in that game, he served that chaos sorcerer, but every step of the way fought and sought his freedom. And it was just perfect. Because in, Dark Heresy and Rogue Trader and all those other, Warhammer 40k role-playing games, the core thing about those games and why I love Roland so much in that story is because it perfectly illustrates how characters should carry out in the game. No one comes away untainted. Nobody comes away uncorrupted. That is a world of hopelessness. That is a world where, the dark powers know the perfect means of twisting and perverting you and turning you against what you once loved and cherished. Now, fortunately, I never saw Roland go all the way into the dark, but just seeing how his good intentions were willingly, and how he willingly allowed his good intentions to taint his soul, was just perfect. And I just love the excitement of that story and telling it. And I hope you guys enjoyed it.